He was just 20 years old. He wanted to have a better future, better life.
But any hopes for a happy future would come to a terrifying end.
He knew that he was in extreme danger. He's basically screaming, yelling for help.
There was a videotape that was very, very chilling.
But who could commit such an unspeakable act of betrayal?
Money, sex, drugs, power, or motives for homicide. Get back at a jilted lover. That's what this was.
You have a horror movie playing out in real life.
December 21st, 2011. At 10:04 a.m., in sunny St. Petersburg, Florida, police receive a 911 call from a terrified young man.
911, if you have fire or medical emergency. Man, where are you? What is the address? Hello? What's the address?
It's a very short phone call because whoever it is that's pursuing him is actually trying to get into wherever he's trying to hide. He was in extreme danger at that point. You can tell based on the tone of his voice and the speed at which he was talking.
He was calling from a cell phone. He wasn't able to tell them where he was. There was no location for authorities to go off of. There was no information other than cries for help. In a situation like this, time is of the essence.
Dispatchers are able to narrow the search to a neighborhood on the north side of St. Petersburg.
Deputies are sent out to the location, walking around the houses, just checking to see if they can hear anything, if they can see anything.
It was kind of like needles in a haystack.
It took about an hour, roughly, before we actually got the exact location to check where Landy was. And that started with a phone call that we got from Landy's roommate. She had not been able to reach him after receiving some messages from Landy's current boyfriend.
She was out of the state on a vacation, and she was very concerned because she was trying to get a hold of Landy and wasn't able to do so. So she called law enforcement. She told them where Landy Martinez lived. Law enforcement then went out to that location.
It was clear that something had happened there because one of the windows was broken out and the door was open to the back of the house.
The officers enter cautiously, not knowing what they'll find.
They announce themselves, try to get some response from someone inside the house. There is no response. Eventually, they get towards the back of the house.
On the floor in the bedroom, they found Landy Martinez with 2 gunshot wounds.
They'd gotten there too late. He was already dead.
Landy Martinez was born and raised in a Cuban farming town.
There was very poor family. They don't have pretty much nothing.
His parents separated when he was really young. His father moved to Miami, Florida, and when he was 5, his father asked to bring him over.
The mom said it's okay to bring him here because it's going to be a better life and better future for him.
Landy was an immigrant, and he was always very grateful for the opportunities that he had in America. He was, someone who loved life and loved being here. He was just a good guy.
He just told me, cousin, I love this country and I'm going to be something in this country. I'm going to be somebody.
After high school, Landy became a certified nursing assistant and got a job at an elder care facility in St. Petersburg.
Landy was living with a couple who would get up early in the morning to go to work together. They worked at the same location.
The 2 roommates, Yadira and Mia, are dear friends of Landy's. One of them worked with Landy. That's how they met. They were both CNAs.
He was very happy, not only because the money he made, he just always think on the grandma he left in Cuba. So all those old people he was helping, they was grandma.
He was amazing at his job, took care of the residents better than most people.
But while Landy excelled at work, his love life was more complicated.
We kind of figured it out in the beginning. Landy was gay. He just didn't come out right away.
Not many people knew that Landy was gay. Being Cuban American, other cultures, they look down upon gay people. So it was undoubtedly difficult.
At work, nobody really cared. They didn't mind. They still loved him the same.
Comforted by his friend's support, Landy confided that he'd recently started seeing someone new. A 19-year-old named Jonathan.
Jonathan lived about an hour away up in Brooksville, Florida. He worked in the medical industry, and he had met Landy at some of the local nightclubs in Tampa, Florida, in Ybor City, and they developed a relationship.
It seemed like Landy found someone in Jonathan that was a lot like him. He was somebody else who was motivated and joyful and, just loved to live.
They'd write their names in the sand on the beach. I thought Jonathan was a perfect match for Landy.
Newly in love, 21-year-old Landy Martinez seemed to have the world at his feet. But less than a month into their romance, Landy's been gunned down in his apartment. The question is, why?
All police know at this point is he was hiding from someone when he called 911. So the question is, who wanted to kill someone like Landy Martinez?
Coming up, beneath a story of young love, investigators find a relationship driven by jealousy and obsession.
With the love triangle, with the cheating, with the video, and then the torture. This is a made-for-TV movie played out in real life.
St. Petersburg police are investigating the murder of Landy Martinez, a 21-year-old nursing assistant shot in his apartment by unknown assailants.
Landy had been shot once in the back of the head, near his left ear, and a second time in the chest.
In the bedroom where Landy's found deceased, he suffered 2 entrance wounds. We found 2 shell casings in that bedroom. They were .380 caliber. So now we're looking for a semi-automatic weapon.
Detectives immediately noticed signs of a break-in, leading them to suspect attempted robbery.
They saw broken glass near the doorway there, and it appeared to be damage to the door.
There's a television that had been taken off the wall and is now sitting on a table inside the house.
A large amount of items, computers, clothing, stacked up together near the door, which didn't appear to be normal. Perhaps someone startled them, the intruders, and the intruder shot and killed the homeowner.
They also find a trail of blood leading to one of the bathrooms.
Inside the bathroom, there's water running in there. They could see blood. They could see things like Drano sitting on the sink.
It was in total disarray. The sliding glass doors to the shower were off their tracks. So there had been some type of a struggle in that bathroom.
We found a rather large knife, a bottle of Drano. They were going to go in here and kidnap him and torture him. That was the intent when they went there.
We believe Landy heard someone attempting to enter the home, and he went to confront those people. And at that time, he was overtaken.
It was unclear why Landy's assailants hadn't simply taken the stolen items and left. But at some point, Landy broke free long enough to call 911.
He was bound by the wrist with duct tape. When he's found, the duct tape is no longer on his person, but you can see residue as well as where hair was removed. You could see the voids where the tape had been taken off. I surmise that Landy got out of his restraints at that time, obtained the phone.
When he called 911, Landy very clearly says, they are trying to kill me, or they are going to kill me. So he's insinuating that there wasn't just one person in there with him. There was clearly more than one person.
Unfortunately, the intruders had been able to break into the room before police arrived.
There's a hammer inside the scene, not far from the doorknob, which is smashed in. That's when Landy was shot in the second bedroom.
It's a terrifying scenario that leaves investigators guessing.
It's very rare to have burglars to go in and kill somebody. A burglar, wants to avoid people. People aren't doing home invasions to steal TVs and PlayStation 2s and computers. They're going in to get cash. It's not a house that you would look at and go, there's a lot of money inside that house.
The evidence of torture is especially concerning Detectives wonder what it could mean.
Unfortunately, there's a murder almost every 3 days in the Tampa Bay area. So it becomes white noise. But because of the unique circumstances of this murder, it becomes elevated to something where people want to look at and find out about.
Detectives continue to search the crime scene and come up with two crucial pieces of evidence. The first is a cell phone they believe Landy used to call 911.
Law enforcement found that phone hidden underneath the mattress of the bed that Landy slept in.
Because we're dealing with a cell phone that we don't know who it belongs to, it took us a little bit of having to go through and get a search warrant.
Cell phone technology is amazing. It's changed the way we do police work. Through cell records, we're getting phone calls, duration of phone calls. We can retrieve text messages, emails, but now we can also do cell sites. But accessing these records because of subpoenas does take an extensive amount of time, especially in Pinellas County.
Detectives apply for a search warrant, but it's a process that will take several days. The second clue comes from a closer look at the window the intruders broke to get inside.
Police did the walk around the property, and when we took videotape, it was obvious that that was done from the inside of the house because the glass was found on the outside. So whoever broke that glass from the inside.
That's a detail that immediately sent up red flags because whoever killed Landy got into the house another way and is trying to throw police off the scent. You have to even wonder if they meant to steal anything.
We suspect that what they attempted to do before they left was to make it look like a robbery. So they broke the glass, not realizing that they broke it from the inside.
Was it a random act of violence? Or had someone gone there intending to kill Landy Martinez?
It's still early in this investigation and anything is possible. But if it was just a robbery, then why torture him?
Coming up, when police get their search warrant, Landy's cell phone will provide some answers.
The phone actually contained the video footage of the victim where he was basically bound and tortured.
Hours after 21-year-old Landy Martinez was found shot to death in his apartment, St. Petersburg detectives are tracking down possible leads, starting with the victim's roommate, Yadara.
Landy's boyfriend, Jonathan, had called Landy's roommate to see if she had any idea where Landy was. She didn't, so she started to call Landy repeatedly. He didn't answer, so she went and checked the footage on the security cameras and found that they had been cut off. That's when she called police to do a welfare check on the home. Police wanted to interview her right away, but she was away visiting family, so they would have to wait for her to get back to Pinellas County.
In the meantime, investigators canvassed the neighborhood, hoping someone saw the intruders.
We do standard police work. We do a neighborhood canvass, and we had a lot of information about door-to-door solicitors in the neighborhood. The salesman went door-to-door and made contact with people and tried to sell them magazines and books. One neighbor did actually see the two suspects that fled on foot afterwards.
Naturally, when you see folks in the area that don't belong there, first thought is, okay, maybe these guys were involved.
Had the two salesmen actually been thieves casing the neighborhood for houses to rob? Or were they assassins looking for Landy Martinez?
The fact that the window was broken from the inside and all of the stolen items were left behind, police can't be sure what really happened here.
One of Landy's neighbors remembered the name of the company that these salesmen were working for, and they were selling magazines door to door, but it turned out that that day, the company had dispatched 30 reps to go and sell these magazines.
The next day, while officers began tracking down the people on that list, Landy's roommate Yadara returns from vacation and arrives to speak with detectives.
She was definitely emotional. You could tell she'd been crying, the puffy eyes, the head hung down. Yadira cared about Landy deeply. She knew Landy for a long period of time. They had met in school. They had worked together. They had built such a good relationship that they actually lived together in the same house, not as a couple, but, as roommates, as friends.
Yadara tells police that she and Landy usually kept in touch throughout the day, but that morning, she'd been contacted by his boyfriend Jonathan instead.
You had been trying to reach Landy. And there's some just text messages that were going on between the two that just didn't sound right. He wasn't returning or answering a phone call from him. And so he reached out to her.
They didn't live in a great part of town. It was not the safest area. So they installed a security system.
She noticed that the cameras were down, which was unusual. So she called law enforcement. She told them that she was concerned about her roommate.
Yadira was extremely cooperative in this investigation and a very important part of the investigation, providing us with background information.
However, investigators are curious to know whether she's aware of any problems between Landy and Jonathan.
Landy and Jonathan had only been dating for a few weeks. I think it was 3 weeks. Landy's roommate had told police that they were very happy together, that they had seemed to fall fast for each other, but it looked like a really quick romance.
I thought he was like sweet, basically like Landy, you know, sweet, kind, caring. He seemed really genuine. Seemed like their relationship would be long-term.
The only issue Yadira can think of is Landy's ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Jose Adame.
Landy was just starting off, you know, as openly gay and first boyfriend. Jose, in the beginning, he seemed, you know, nice, caring.
Jose and Landy met online on a dating website, and their first date was in a club in Miami, a nightclub.
Landy loved Mexican music, and he was dancing, and he had a good time with that guy.
Jose and Landy dated for several months before breaking up. Landy met Jonathan shortly after that, but Yadira says Jonathan had an irrational fear that Landy was still in love with Jose.
Jonathan was insecure. It was the beginning of a relationship. He wanted to make sure that things were over with Jose and Landy. The night before this homicide, Landy said, "Let me call Jose, you stay on the phone, and I'll show you that it's all him and it has nothing to do with me. It's all him wanting to get with me. I'm not interested in Jose, I want to be with you."
There was an exchange that happened at 1 o'clock that morning. Landy called Jose, and Landy put his current boyfriend on the phone to be able to listen to this conversation.
Jonathan is concerned that Landy is really going to go back with Jose, and he says, no, I love you, and I'll prove it to you.
Landy had told Jonathan, just be quiet, I'm not going to tell him you're on the phone, so you'll know this is the truth.
Jose was told by Landy that Landy didn't love him. Landy had a new boyfriend.
Yadira tells police Landy also asked her to listen in. According to her, the call seemed to go well.
Jose's reaction was, no big deal, no problem. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Jonathan. I'm glad. Matter of fact, I have a new boyfriend, he said. He's given me a red Lexus. He even texted over a picture of him standing in front of a red Lexus.
But investigators wonder if perhaps one of Landy's boyfriends wasn't as happy with the situation as they pretended to be.
In most investigations, police start in, closest to the victim, and then out and out and out. Jonathan was Landy's lover. You got to look at him.
The four-way phone call in particular raised a lot of questions. Was there a reason for Jonathan to be jealous? Did he see something or know something? There's also the possibility Jose wasn't over Landy. Could this even be a case of, if I can't have you, no one can?
People commit crimes of passion all the time, whether it's a love triangle or, a jealous rage. Passion brings out intense emotions, and sometimes they're really great intense emotions, and sometimes they're the kinds of things that drive someone to murder.
Coming up, detectives learn that Jonathan and Landy's relationship wasn't all it appeared to be.
Jonathan was shocked because just hours ago, he had told him he loved him.
None of the text messages made sense based on the conversation they just had several hours before.
Based on the details of a terrifying 911 call, as well as eyewitness accounts from neighbors, police believe they are looking for two suspects in the shooting death of 21-year-old Landy Martinez.
There were people who saw the two males who were selling magazines that were leaving the area quickly.
Could one of them be Landy's current or former boyfriend?
Well, jealousy, anger, revenge, these are all the motives for homicide.
At that point, detectives don't have a whole lot to go on, so they really want to talk to Jonathan and Jose.
As far as we knew, Jose was living in North Carolina.
Before police get a chance to talk to either of them, investigators find the magazine salesman.
They were legitimate solicitors out of a company out of California trying to sell magazine and book subscriptions. They did give a spiel that they were trying to get money to go to college.
He says his manager called him because detectives wanted to speak to him. He was one of the salesmen out in Landy's neighborhood on that day.
The magazine salesman was able to tell us what he was doing in the neighborhood, which we were able to verify by going to the attempted customers that he tried to solicit. He also had a receipt where he had purchased coffee that morning.
After speaking with the salesman, both he and the other suspected salesman's alibis are confirmed, and they are eliminated as suspects, which leaves detectives with only two options.
We had one witness that saw two Hispanic males coming from the scene. One of them could have been Jonathan or Jose Adame.
Less than 24 hours after discovering Landy's body, detectives find Jonathan 70 miles away in the town of Brooksville, Florida. He seems devastated by the news of Landy's death.
Jonathan was very upset, was genuine in his emotions. He lost a new love interest, and at such a young age, it's got to be sad for him. Jonathan actually told us that he was at work at the time.
Jonathan was Landy's lover. You got to look at him, see if they had a lover spat. You don't know what went on.
Jonathan insists he didn't have anything to do with the murder. Although they'd only been dating a month, he was deeply in love with Landy. But he said it seemed Landy might not have felt the same way.
Jose kept in contact with Landy no matter where he was, constantly calling him, texting him. Jonathan didn't know what to think at the time.
He told basically the same story as Yadara, that Landy told him he'd prove things were over with Jose, and around 1 a.m. the night before the murder, he got everyone on the phone.
If anything, the phone call gave Jonathan some closure, seeing that Landy really did not care for Jose anymore.
However, Jonathan tells detectives that the next morning, Landy sent him a series of texts saying that he changed his mind.
Landy told him, "I don't want to see you anymore. I'm still in love with Jose." Jonathan was shocked because just hours ago, he had told him he loved him. He wanted to see him again. Hope to see you soon. So he was totally caught off guard.
To Jonathan, the sudden reversal seemed suspicious.
Something had bothered him. He thought that text message didn't seem to be from Landy. And he didn't know exactly why he didn't think it was from Landy, but it bothered him. It didn't seem to be Landy's type of texting that he would normally do.
Who is sending Jonathan these text messages? Is it actually Landy? Is there something that Jonathan is involved in?
And later that same day, Landy's body was found.
As far as Jonathan was concerned, if Landy didn't send those messages, there's only one other person that could have.
He was worried that he possibly could have been target because he was Landy's boyfriend. So he had some fear for his own safety.
Investigators wonder if his suspicions are correct. Was Jose the one who sent the texts breaking up with Jonathan? Or was there something else going on?
When Jonathan received the text messages, he knew something was wrong, and Landy wouldn't answer the phone because he was calling and say, "Hey, what are you talking about?" Jonathan said it didn't make any sense, but then it made perfect sense. Jose can't answer the phone because Jonathan will realize quickly that it's not Landy.
At this point, all they have is Jonathan's account, and he seems genuine and believable, but there's also the possibility that he could be lying to implicate Jose.
There's only one way for detectives to solve the mystery. Find out which one of Landy's boyfriends had his best interests at heart, and which one wanted him dead.
I've got two detectives that are signed as case agents that were literally trying to dig up as much information as they possibly can on Jose so that they can then go to where we believe that he might be.
Coming up, detectives uncover evidence of a jilted lover with a terrifying plot for revenge.
There was a videotape that was very, very chilling. He was tied up and he was pleading for his life.
After interviewing the victim's current boyfriend, investigators are left with more questions than answers. Landy Martinez had declared his love for Jonathan, only to break up with him in a text message moments before he was killed.
The victim's not answering his phone. However, he's getting text messages back from someone in a conversation like he would normally get from the victim, which is why he was so suspicious.
Who is sending Jonathan these text messages? Is it actually Landy? Is there something that Jonathan is involved in?
Jonathan claimed to be at work at the time of the murder, so detectives call his employers to verify his alibi.
Jonathan was right where he said he was at the time.
His cell phone, which they could trace off the cell tower, and work records showed he was an hour away from the murder scene. So they quickly eliminated Jonathan as the potential killer.
With Jonathan no longer a suspect, investigators turn their attention to Landy's former lover, Jose Adame.
Since they know Jonathan's telling the truth, that means that Jose might have been the one sending the messages, which means he might have had access to Landy's phone around the time of the murder.
While detectives track down Jose, investigators contact Gail Rigg, one of Landy's oldest friends, to find out what she can tell them about his relationship with Jose.
Gail was a wealth of information for us, for Landy's background, for Jose's background, for Jose's behavior.
Gail tells detectives that things couldn't have started out better between Landy and Jose. In fact, they'd only been dating a short time when they decided to move in together.
They lived in an apartment, little one-bedroom, really cute apartment. Used to go over there every now and then, hang out, birthday parties. Relationship seemed really good. He seemed really happy. Jose seemed happy.
But according to Gail, Landy soon began to realize there was a darker side to Jose.
We got invited to go swim in their pool, so I brought my son with me, and Jose made a comment that I didn't like. My son was like 11, maybe 12 at the time. My gut feeling just wasn't there.
Jose had offered to smoke marijuana with the young child and show him pornographic movies.
It was an inappropriate comment, and she just didn't trust Jose from that point on around her son. She warned Landy about Jose's jealous behaviors. He would get mad at little things, that weren't reasonable.
I talked to Landy about it. He confronted Jose, corrected him, hey, that's not right type thing.
Over the next few months, the relationship continued to sour.
The things started change when he became, the jealous of things, and it was because he didn't do nothing for his life. But my cousin Landy, he was doing something for his life.
Landy had ambition and wanted to help people. He was working towards those goals, but Jose seemed lost.
It was meeting Jonathan that had finally made Landy decide to end his relationship with Jose.
He instantly was smitten by Jonathan. Things were not going well with Jose anyway, and he wanted to get into this new relationship. So he told Jonathan, "You're my guy." And then had to tell Jose, "You're not."
They both moved out of the apartment, and Jose moved back to North Carolina to be with family. Jose didn't take the breakup very well, and so when he found out that Landy had already moved on, he lashed out.
Jose was possessive, jealous. He went so far as to take the vehicle that actually belonged to Landy. It was in Landy's name. And he'd drive through the stoplights, the traffic lights that were monitored by cameras, and photos would be taken, and he would be raising his middle finger.
Jose was trying to emotionally hurt Landy, hey, here, I'm going to do this to get you back type thing. All the tickets would go to Landy.
The tickets continued to pile up, and Landy was responsible for paying the fines. So he decided to do something about it.
Landy had enough. He made a phone call to Jose, lured Jose back here to St. Petersburg. Said he wanted to get back together. He missed him. He made a mistake.
Landy says, "Let's meet." Jose thinks they're getting back together.
Jose drove down in the car, met him at a fast food restaurant in the parking lot. Waiting for him was Landy and law enforcement. At that time, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office determined the rightful owner of the vehicle was Landy Martinez.
He's been tricked. He thought he was getting back together with Landy, and now he's lost his ride.
Landy took the vehicle and went back to his residence, leaving Jose there in the parking lot with some luggage, some clothing, and no transportation.
Gail's story puts Landy's murder in a whole new light.
There were a number of reasons why Jose didn't initially seem like a strong suspect. First, he didn't live in Florida anymore. And second, Jonathan and Yadara said they were on the phone the night before the murder with Jose, and he told them he was seeing someone new.
It appears that in setting up Jose, Landy Martinez had made an extremely dangerous enemy.
Jose was mean, a little crazy, maybe slightly psychotic. The stuff he was trying to pull and being mean to Landy all the way around.
Jose is just crazed with this, and the rage just comes out. That's what pushed him over the edge when he finds out that he's been duped again, and now he wants revenge.
Anyone might want revenge after a bad breakup, but after learning more about Jose, it's not hard to imagine him taking it too far.
While the search for Jose continues, investigators finally gain access to Landy's phone. What they find is shocking.
We're able to use a program that we have to search the contents of the phone. That's when we realized that there was actually video footage of the victim inside the bathroom of the house where he was basically bound and tortured.
It was a videotape that was very, very chilling. It was Landy Martinez, and he was crying out in Spanish. He was tied up, he was wet, the shower was running, and he was pleading for his life.
Investigators realize he's being forced to confirm his breakup with Jonathan.
He was being videotaped to record a statement that he was no longer in love with his current boyfriend.
He was blaming himself for everything that had occurred, and Jose was a great guy, and Jose had nothing to do with this, and I'm all at fault, it's my fault.
It's never easy to watch somebody suffer, but watching someone beg for their life is horrible. It was disgusting.
Whoever was filming Landy was doing it out of hate, out of spite, and was torturing him.
And at this point, it seems obvious who the person holding the camera must be.
And he was using a Spanish term called papi. And we later learned that that was a term of endearment that Landy had used towards Jose.
Coming up, detectives believe Jose Adame is their murderer. Now they just have to catch him.
We're using the U.S. Marshal's Office to try to help us locate him.
At that point, it was anybody's guess. He could have been anywhere.
After a week of investigation, St. Petersburg police have zeroed in on a suspect in the murder of Landy Martinez, his ex-boyfriend Jose Adame, who they believe tortured and killed him out of jealousy and revenge.
Jose had the motive, but it was the video on Landy's phone that convinced them that he was the one who did this.
Someone else was there filming it. Landy did make reference to Jose. And why would Landy be taking the blame for the fault in the relationship?
There's absolutely no reason why you would say something like that unless the person holding the cell phone recording you is compelling you to say that.
On December 27th, 2011, Catawba County Police finally catch up with Jose.
He was staying with his mother in a trailer in Hickory, North Carolina.
They took him into custody for us, and then our detectives met him at the county jail up there to try to do an interview of him there. The initial response that they got was a total denial, basically saying that he had not been down in that area.
Since you've been back to North Carolina on the 17th, you have not been back to Florida. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Your phone that you're using is in Pinellas County, Florida, Tuesday and Wednesday. So you're going to have to explain that to us.
We were able to determine that at the time of the killing, his phone was in close proximity to Landy Martinez's home.
At that point, the investigator plays the 911 call for Jose.
After being able to point out some very crucial evidence that they had to him, at that point, he got nauseous. began to press and try to get him to tell them exactly what happened, they received a telephone call from someone representing themselves as being his attorney, and they had to end the interview.
Jose isn't talking, but when detectives execute a search warrant on his sister's home, they come up with a final and conclusive piece of evidence.
We were able to obtain blood out of that vehicle, blood that was identified as belonging to Landy Martinez.
They also find out the name of the person seen leaving Landy's neighborhood with Jose the day he was killed.
Witnesses identified Jose's nephew, Leo, the young 16-year-old boy, as having been with Jose on the 20th and 21st of December. Once we found out who Leo was, we returned to North Carolina and tried to make contact with Leo, but Leo wasn't to be found. We feel that Leo probably went back to Mexico, or at least was hiding out. And throughout the whole period of time, Jose Adame always denied the crime, so he never provided us information concerning Leo or Leo's involvement.
4 months after the crime, on April 14th, 2012, Jose Adame is indicted for the murder of Landy Martinez. More than 4 years later, after delays in preparing the case and gathering witnesses, his trial finally begins in July of 2016. Prosecutors are confident once the jury hears the details of his heinous crime, they will have no trouble finding him guilty.
Jose thought he got the raw end of the deal when he and Landy broke up, so he planned the robbery to get back at him. So all those bags that police found stacked up against the door were filled with items that he probably had every intention of taking.
The night before the robbery, Landy added insult to injury by subjecting him to more humiliation in front of Jonathan and Yadara.
Being confronted on this three-way phone call that they had at 1 o'clock in the morning, being told, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. These are the things that we believe that pushed him over the edge.
So instead of just going in and robbing Landy, they tied him up, they tortured him, and they executed him.
We surmised that while they ransacked the home, they were going from room to room, packing things in pillowcases and duffel bags. Landy got out of his restraints at that time, obtained the phone. He's making the 911 call, he's chased, and he's shot, and he's killed.
Jose's phone records help prove he and his cousin were the men neighbors saw fleeing the area.
After the shooting, his phone immediately traveled outside of Pinellas County, over the bridge, into Tampa, I-75, on up to North Carolina.
Instead of claiming that Jose is innocent, the defense tries to raise doubt by pinning the blame on his 16-year-old nephew, Leo.
They finally admitted that Jose was inside the house, but Jose had nothing to do with the killing. It was all Leo.
It was a last-second admittance to being at the scene of the crime, saying that there was someone else there, the 16-year-old who had never met the man that he allegedly murdered.
After a 5-day trial, the jury returns its verdict. They find Jose Adame guilty of first-degree murder. He is sentenced to life in prison.
The physical evidence that we had at the scene contained in that cell phone with that video footage, and then the blood evidence that was found inside his sister's car. You get cases with evidence, but that much evidence just keep coming and coming. It's rare that you have that type of case.
For Landy's friends and family, the victory is bittersweet.
If this didn't happen to Landy, I think he probably would have moved on to maybe a nurse or, doctor or something, married Jonathan or found another love of his life and just had a family.
To do those kind of things, you need to be able. You need to have the devil inside of you. Jose, he deserved to be dead because he gave part of my heart to